Well, the Baltimore Ravens season is over, meaning today we start anew. The 2025-2026 NFL season starts now, and every Monday in the offseason for years now, I've put out a mock draft Monday every single time. And today is the very first one. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTV Ravens Media. If you're new to the channel, you're new to the series, welcome. It's a lot of fun. I start my off-season scouting everything once the Ravens season ends. So this is day one of me scouting. I will scout. I will have top 5, probably top 10 position ranks for every single position, as well as a ton of different Baltimore Ravens mocks. You guys know, no trades, 7 rounds. The Ravens have 11 picks, so it's going to be kind of quick how fast I go through some of these players. The first 3 picks or so, I'll try and give a lot of analysis. If you guys want more analysis, I can give it. Let me know in the comment section down below, as well as let me know what you think about these players. Again, this is day one of scouting. If I don't know that someone had a significant knee injury in 2021 and it's hindered their performance, let me know. Like, I probably don't know that with any of these players. I've watched a little bit of them. I've done a little bit of research. Again, I will know all of my stuff by the end of the scouting season. And you guys know this. We do this every year. You guys always give me great suggestions and let me know great value pickups to find. I use PFF for this one. I usually switch between PFF and Pro Football Network draft tools. But this one I did with PFF. I do have a premium subscription to PFF. Not that I love PFF or anything like that. But here we go. Let's jump right into it. First overall pick, 27th. I had a couple of players on the board that I really like. You guys know I want to go receiver. I saw Alec Iomanair there, and you guys know I'm a Stanford guy, but I did not go with Alec Iomanair. I went with Donovan Iziraku out of Boston College. There were other pass rushers as well. I know, I think his name is Kingsley out of Ole Miss was available. I like Donovan's film a little bit better. Donovan is undersized. He's about 6'2", 6'3". He doesn't weigh a ton, but he was extremely productive at Boston College. He was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. I want to say he had like 16 sacks. He was wildly productive, and he was able to win on the inside as well as the outside. And I don't necessarily need him in run situations. The Ravens have good run stuffing edge players. We saw that yesterday with Tavius Robinson. He came in and he was the best player on the Baltimore Ravens defense when he was playing. He was fantastic. We also have guys like Odafe Oweh who's good against the run, and we know we have him for next year. So, you know, I think getting a primary pass rusher, a third down specialist could absolutely be in the cards for the Ravens. It's a position the Ravens can use. Having that guy that's not just going to get there for coverage sacks, someone that's going to be able to get there consistently when we need him to. He doesn't have to play every snap. But unfortunately, we're not getting the crazy production out of guys like Odafe, Kyle Van Noy, and David Ojabo consistently. They play well. They're not bad players, but I'd like to get a little bit more help in the pass rush department. But because I went pass rush in the first round, you guys know I want a wide receiver. I saw a wide receiver available, I think is a can't pass up in the second round out of Iowa State, Jaden Higgins. Jaden Higgins is 6'4". He can high point the ball. He can make the intermediate catch. You know, when you look at him and when you watch him, he's not the fastest of players, right? He's 6'4", but he's not Calvin Johnson, right? Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss, those 6'4" types, they're the minority. Typically 6'4" player, 6'5" player, they're not going to be crazy fast. But this guy's dominant in the intermediate. He's a player that can get open, cut to the inside, run a post route, run a dig. And Lamar Jackson would be able to find him. He also was their go-to guy on fourth down. They love to throw like a slot fade to him on fourth and short, which is crazy to have that much confidence in your big body wide receiver. But that's the type of player he was. He would get open in the end zone. He'd have contested catches in the end zone. And on third and fourth down, he was the go-to guy for Iowa State. The Baltimore Ravens wide receivers right now, they have Rashad Bateman. They have Zay Flowers. Other than that, we don't really know who's going to be a productive player. Obviously, we have other players. Not trying to rule out Tez Walker. You know, if we re-sign Talon Wallace and Nelson Aguilar. Jaden Higgins is a player that I trust to catch the ball. I think he only had 2 drops last year, which is very good for a player that, you know, is making contested catches on the regular, such as him. That's a player that I think Lamar Jackson can get behind. And I think Lamar Jackson could have the kind of faith that he has in Isaiah Likely, how Lamar will just give him opportunities. Isaiah Likely, not necessarily 40 yards downfield, but those 15 to 20-yard routes, Jaden Higgins is that exact type of player of Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. And I know Mark Andrews is a bit of a sore subject for a lot of Ravens fans right now. But that type of player where Lamar Jackson can have that trust. Hey, third down, fourth down, like you find him. If you need to throw it up to somebody, you can throw it up to Jaden Higgins. He's that level of player. Next up, round 3, pick 91. I know Void put this guy in the chat last night when we were streaming. This is a guy that I've actually watched all year because I like watching Texas. But I went with Andrew Makuba. Safety, out of Texas, good instincts, good ball skills, athletic. We don't know what we're doing at safety. We have Kyle Hamilton. That's a lock. We don't know if we're re-signing our Darius Washington. I would love to re-sign our Darius Washington, but if we don't, Makuba's a player that I think could play relatively quickly into his career, but it could be a situation where we sign a free agent, veteran safety, and then have Makuba work underneath him and potentially get reps as that third safety when we drop Kyle Hamilton into the box. But Makuba's an instinctual player. He can get the interceptions. He had the game-winning pick against Arizona State in the second round, I believe, of the college football playoff. This is a guy that you can trust in the back end of your defense. Texas was arguably the best defense in the country this year. I think they were the most consistent defense in the country. Ohio State might be a little bit more talented, but I love Makuba's game. I think he could absolutely make a difference in this Ravens secondary. And again, there's not a lot of players, not a lot of positions the Ravens are in need of immediate starters. But I think he could be an immediate impact player, someone that can get us turnovers, because in the playoffs, that's something we struggled for the last couple of years. We can't get those big-time turnovers that other teams seem to get against the Ravens. Makuba, hopefully he could be that type of player. And now that we're getting into day 3, I am going to go a little bit quicker with these players because, again, we have 11 draft picks. That's a lot. In some years, we only have like 6 or 7. It was a lot easier for me to just analyze all of them and just go crazy with it. But I'm going to kind of not run through them, but talk a little bit why I picked them. But starting off round 4, pick 127, I went with Chase Lunt, tackle out of UConn. He's 6'8", he's 300 pounds, and we don't know what we're doing with Ronnie Stanley. So getting a tackle, I think, would be smart in the draft. I also think that we are going to re-sign Ronnie Stanley. I don't think it'll be for a ton of money. So Chase Lunt would be somebody that we draft as a backup offensive tackle that can develop under a Ronnie Stanley and a Roger Rosengarten and potentially be that starter next year. He's much more NFL ready than a guy like a Daniel Faalele was. This isn't me saying, oh, let's draft a developmental center like a Faalele. That's not what this is. This is just, hey, this is a decent player with really good size. You can't teach size. And get him behind a former All-Pro Pro Bowler in Ronnie Stanley, get him to learn it. And I think we should re-sign Ronnie Stanley as well. He did play right tackle, so the Ravens would have a decision. Do you want to switch him to left or potentially Rosengarten to left? Either way, you can learn left tackle. This isn't a major thing, but again, he's not doing it right away. He's not starting at left tackle day 1 for the Baltimore Ravens. It's a day 3 pick. Not expecting any of these guys to be day 1 starters. Next up, a cornerback out of South Carolina. I went with O'Donnell Fortune. This guy, when I was watching him, he made plays very, very instinctual in zone coverage. He lurked Jalen Milroe. He was the guy that got the game-winning interception for South Carolina against Alabama. He had a pick 6 in the bowl game, not this year, but recently against Notre Dame. This is a guy that can make plays. If you guys can't tell, that's what this mock draft is. It's what do the Ravens need? I think it's playmakers. I still like TJ Tampa. This isn't me drafting him to say I don't believe in TJ Tampa. But again, you can never have too many corners. I felt like this guy was talented. I think this guy has the right size, the right traits for what the Ravens do at cornerback. And I'll say this, we're not bringing back Brandon Stevens. And if we do, we got serious issues. So corner is a position of need for the Baltimore Ravens, at least just depth. So TJ Tampa, love you. I think O'Donnell Fortune could be another player to back him up and be a potential playmaker in the years to come. Next up, round 5, pick 176. I went with a linebacker because we had to switch it up. I like Trenton Simpson. He has potential. He's athletic. Malik Harrison, he's a free agent. We don't know if we're keeping him We have, guys like Chris Board, potential veteran signings that we can play at the will. This isn't a start right away linebacker I'm drafting. This is a depth piece that has the right tools, and coming from a good defense at Georgia. Smile Munden Jr., linebacker out of Georgia. Drafting a linebacker out of the SEC, especially Alabama or Georgia, is rarely a negative, especially when you have as many picks as the Ravens do. Again, camp body, can fight for that, potential will spot or just be a backup, play special teams. He's coming. He's a multi-year starter. This is a guy that I drafted as, hey, maybe he could develop into something, which again, that's what day 3 picks are. You're not going to get a superstar with every single one. You draft them at positions of need. You hope they can develop, maybe fill a role at some point. Next up, round 6 pick 183. We have 4 rounds or expected 4 6th round picks. This is the first of them. I went with Clay Webb, guard out of Jacksonville State. I think we need offensive line depth. He's a guard. I believe he was a left guard in college, and we don't know what we're doing with Patrick McCarry, who started at left guard for most of the year. I like Andrew Voorhees. I think he'll be the starter. Ben Cleveland is also a free agent. So, that depth that we had last year, we're not necessarily having that. We do still have guys like Saleh. We have Nick Samick, who's a backup center, under contract that we drafted last year. So, we don't have nobody, but getting more offensive line depth is a plus, in my opinion. And Clay Webb definitely brings that at guard. Not an immediate starter, but hey, get a guy in camp, get a guy who can potentially develop, because we can always use more guards and offensive line. Next up, round 6, pick 203. I went with edge Antoine Powell-Ryland out of Virginia Tech. This guy was very productive at Virginia Tech. This guy was dominant at Virginia Tech. This is a good football player. This guy's a pass rusher. This guy is going to get after the quarterback, situational pass rusher. Again, we can use him. Why take one shot on a pass rusher when you got 11 shots possible? I think pass rusher and wide receiver are the 2 biggest needs for the Baltimore Ravens. Not saying wide receiver 1, but just getting wide receiver depth. So why not take multiple? And I decided to take multiple edges in this draft. Antoine Powell-Ryland. I think this would be an actual great pick. I loved what I saw when I was watching him. I did watch a couple of Virginia Tech games this year. He does show up. He's a noticeable player on their defense. So highly recommend everyone checks him out. Next up, round 6, pick 209. I went with Holland Pierce. Sorry, I was reading the R in Rutgers as the start of his name. Holland Pierce, another big tackle. This guy definitely more developmental than a guy like Chase Lunt. But again, getting tackle depth when we're losing a lot of it with McCarry, who's a backup tackle, we're potentially losing Ronnie Stanley. Getting tackle bodies is always going to be beneficial, and develop him. Potentially right tackle. You can always shift them to guard if they don't work at tackle. And look at a guy like Mekhi Becton, who's a starting guard for the Philadelphia Eagles. This guy was a top 15 pick as at tackle. He wasn't really working at tackle. They're like, yo, you're big, you're strong, you're physical. Put him at guard, and he's moving people for the Philadelphia Eagles. And Faalele is kind of doing the same thing for the Ravens. Not as much so. He's not as good as Mekhi Becton, but Faalele got a lot better as the season went on. I think Holland Pierce, developmental guy, offensive line body, never a bad thing to draft offensive lineman on day 3. Next and final, round 6 pick, I went with Teddy Buchanan, linebacker out of Cal. This guy can play pass coverage. This guy can stop the run. Again, we don't know what's going on at the will linebacker spot next to Roquan Smith. Getting another guy to be depth, fight for that spot. Again, it's not going to be a bad thing. I do like this guy's game. He's noticeable at Cal. He's a big piece of their defense. He's been there. I believe he's been he's been a starter for the last 3 years. I don't know if he transferred to Cal or not, but this guy, again, round 6 pick. You're not getting a first team all pro in their rookie year. This is somebody that's going to come in, fight for that spot. We'll see what he can do. And then final pick, round 7 pick 245. Went with another offensive lineman. I don't think it's ever a bad thing to draft a lineman, especially when you have 11 picks. I went with Marcus Weir out of Montana State. The small school offensive linemen are often the most overlooked. I took Jacksonville State offensive lineman Clay Webb. I'm now taking Marcus Weir out of Montana State. He was dominant in Montana State. The question is, how's the competition? We've seen offensive linemen from these smaller schools, like a Cole Strange out of Chattanooga, end up being very, very good. But we've also seen them fluttering out. So taking them in the early rounds, it's a little bit more risky because you just don't know how they're going to translate. But taking them, with your round 7 pick, who cares, right? He was dominant at his college at the offensive line. That's always a good thing. The question is, will it stand up against better competition? We'll find out. So taking a round 7 flyer on him, I don't mind. That's the overall draft. I think I'm going to edit in on this right side, probably put in who I drafted so you guys can actually see it while we're drafting. But if you don't see it, it's Donovan Ezuraku. Sorry. Tough name. Jaden Higgins, Andrew Makuba, Chase Lunt, O'Donnell Fortune, or Smile Munden Jr., Clay Webb, Antoine Powell-Ryland, Holland Pierce, Teddy Buchanan, and Marcus Ware. Let me know in the comment section down below what you all think. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more. I'm creating a playlist with all the mock drafts, so people will be able to watch them consecutively if they want. But let me know. Who are players I should draft? What do you like about the guys I took? Also, let me know your mock drafts in the comment section down below. I love reading what you guys pick. And if you put your reasoning, that's even better. I love seeing why you guys pick certain players so I can check them out, potentially draft them in my future mocks. Thank you all so much. Subscribe for more. And I'll see all of you again tomorrow, talking probably more about the Bills game, but not as exciting as mock drafts. Have a good one.